Most Earthlings try very hard to be recognized for what they do, but when they become stars, sir, they realize they're recognized wherever they go. You have responsibilities, anxieties, and, well, to be honest, sir, some of them can't take it.
Was instant stardom like that and instant fame like that disorienting?
Very. It's like being taken from the bottom of Death Valley to the top of the Empire State Building in 2 seconds. It's totally disorienting. To be from, you know, just performing in the Comedy Store, small clubs, and all of a sudden have everybody know you. And that happened. And that was instantaneous. And that, it's a little frightening, too. I mean, you know, people, if you're kind of shy, and sometimes I get kind of like this, that they, you know, people would, they just look at you.
Cocaine, what a wonderful drug. Anything that makes you paranoid and impotent, give me more of that.
One of the great triumphs of your life was the way you beat drugs. But do you think that getting into them was the effect of success or just the atmosphere of the 70s, late 80s?
I mean, success was one. It's like the old joke. Do you have a drug problem? No, everybody had it. It was a great way of kind of avoiding contact. And then you get into this kind of, you want to pull back from it rather than experience it because it's frightening and you're trying to find some way to pull away. I think it was escaping from people, basically. It's, you know, just, you know, from those people going, hey.
When you're a celebrity, everybody wants a piece of you, sir. Unless you can say no, there'll be no pieces left for yourself.
Sometimes it was the fear of failure. It was that thing of, you know, if you didn't notice, you wouldn't, because it was coming so fast, it was that fear of when's it going to go? Rather than just keep, you know, finding and doing different things. Cocaine actually made me almost not sleepy, but would just shut me down. I would get like this. And I think that's why I did it. So I wouldn't have to experience.
So it was cutting off from people, as you said.
Yeah, it was isolating. It was, and then years later after I stopped, when I see people, they're actually going, you just made eye contact. How you doing? Because most of the time you didn't have to. It was a great chance not to look at people. It was, you know, this. I couldn't see anymore. It's because, once again, it's the brain. The brain, once it tastes it, will want to go back up to the same level. Will demand that because it's psychologically addicting. They found that out.
And how long did it take you to feel that sense of liberation that you mentioned Richard Pryor felt?
It took you about a year. Someone said you're liberated when you don't talk about it, when you don't mention or you don't have to say anything, when it doesn't appear in your subconscious, when it's just gone. Something very freeing about having your mind back and in your control. The ideas that you find will get you the same kind of stimulus. And then what other things happen is you start to relate to people again. And as you come back into the world and relate to them, they're stimulating and realizing that can be quite wonderful. Conversations with friends, you know, playing with your child. You know, all of these things can be just as stimulating and wonderfully so and nourishing. And then all of a sudden you start to come back. It's just a process of that, of, you know, building that in again.
You treat a disease, you win, you lose. You treat a person, I guarantee you'll win no matter what the outcome.
Providing a security of acknowledging who I am and saying, I love that. I love what you are. Don't be afraid. And it's like, oh, then that frees you up. You really do? Me? I used to talk about myself. I used to have this image that I was kind of like this, almost like a dwarf, because I've been called that in school. I was like this little short, furry guy. And then I said, I love that. Really? But that's been the process, and it's so wonderful, and it's growing. And you learn and you go through, and it's been tough. And the way that all of Oliver's work is, he makes you examine these supposedly negative and horrifying things from another perspective and say, yes, these are, you know, there is great pain in aspects to that, but he also said, look at the power of the human spirit, and more than just the spirit, the power of the mind, and distinguishing between the mind and the brain. Some people say that the brain is a computer, but he said, no, beyond that, there is something, there is deity within you. There is that, you know, that spark, that divine thing, and it stems from creation, that thing that is soul.
The human spirit is more powerful than any drug. And that is what needs to be nourished.
And that's what I was fascinated by with Oliver's writing and with Awakenings. That which can shine through something that which seems apparently dead, but yet the human mind and spirit shines through that. And you saw it in the tapes when he showed me the tapes of some of the patients. And they would be like this, and he'd say, watch. And all of a sudden, they would come back. And you can see they were there, and then they would go out again. And it would be in that moment you knew. And he said he was only going on that faith that they were there.
Well, I was going to say, did meeting those people over such a sustained period of time, concentrated period of time. I mean, did it make you feel that life is incredibly unfair, or did you feel that maybe it's fair because they have some compensating thing that we don't?
The thing that makes me sometimes feel that life is unfair, that flattens me, is when you see children with cancer. When they bring that, I say, why? I mean, we had a young boy come to the set of Hook who wrote and came, and you say, why? Why do this? I mean, why is it that they have this? I mean, that's sometimes the one time I go, oh, if it's benevolent and all this, why are they? But yet, then after a while you talk to them, and even then they have such a will and a power that anytime you start to think of my life and go, look at this child. This one little boy was 8, shaved head from chemotherapy, but had such a strength and a power and such a joy that he was just like, it was beyond intoxicating, that he basically had this will and this spirit and this love and was not bitter and was not angry. He was still a child, and he still would take me to meet the other kids and say, look, hey, this is my friend, that's Tommy. He's on a machine, but he's okay, you know, and he's fine. He likes Legos. And he wasn't like this, you know, and obviously there were times when it's horribly painful.
Does religion matter to you much?
Oh, deeply. I mean, it comes from years ago when I used to treat it more in kind of that cosmic sense, like Einstein said. When you look around and you see all of it, you have to realize there's some, you know, method behind it all. And truly your sense of awe and your sense of wonder. And then you begin to approach that. And then from the painful issues, you know, what we've just talked about, can you be angry at that? Or do you kind of start to go beyond and look at it all and realize not to be bitter, not to be angry, but to still keep trying and not give up on people?
Don't give up on me. I won't.
What infuriates me sometimes here is the lack of, sometimes just the sheer lack of funding. When the truth is we're broke, so you can't even get furious about that. But how can you deny when there's, you know, hundreds of thousands of people who have AIDS and are dying of it, and just turn your head on them? And people are dying alone in their rooms. And why do you do that? Well, Jesse sometimes will deny the funds because this is God's will. Well, Jesse sometimes wake up, you know. So you have to take that stand and, you know, wander among people. And not be afraid of that. And to wander into the world and to put your heart and soul behind trying to still keep things going. Not to accept it and just say, well, it's the way it is. And to trying to help these children, if you can't cure it, and to make their life wonderful now. And to try and do these things that, you know, that allows them to have a wonderful life despite this.
With work, play, friendship, family. These are the things that matter.
Not just for your own family, but for the family of man. That we are one species, and we are endangered. We are we are basically destroying ourselves from within unless you wise up and start to take certain measures on all levels. And that's where you have. And it's what this 3.5 pound gland that we have, the one cure lies within the same thing that is causing a lot of the pain, is this.
Well, why if we've got those brains, why are we destroying ourselves from within? Why are we so self-destructive?
Because Kessler used to say we haven't evolved, we haven't, jumped between the lower brains, the lizard and the mammal, There are very few mammals that, kill each other off, except for rats. And then sometimes you wonder why we look like that. That we have to evolve up, somehow take the leap to evolve the emotional level with this intellect that can create amazing machines that can save life, but also create amazing machines that can take it in 2 seconds, destroy the world. And to evolve and to join, to somehow catch up that all of the different things. He was suggesting that they should make a drug that somehow bridges the gap emotionally between this, you have these, powerful soul and these feelings, but sometimes could be overridden by this mind that can say, we must extinguish all the others. And then you go, wait, this was an intellect that came up with that concept. And wait, bring the heart up to that, to override that, and to join all of them. These are the things that it's happening. Will we catch up to ourselves? Will we somehow be in control of that? We still have these primitive urges that used to make me take, it's when we were like running around going, but now we have a big stick that basically burns everything. Gone. You know, these are the things that you have to, you know, you try, you play with. When it's a comic, you play with it, but you're still playing with pain.
No matter what anybody tells you, words and ideas can change the world.
Do you have a favourite role across the years?
Yeah, Dead Poets Society.
Yeah.
With one of the great directors, Peter Weir, who is an Australian and an amazing, he's a director, but he's also a teacher. Everybody who's ever worked with him comes out a better person. He gave me the greatest advice of all. He said, you know, you don't have to say anything.
Yeah.
If you listen, like I'm doing right now, okay, back. But he said if you really listen with intent, you can be quite powerful. And it took so much pressure off of thinking, I've got to be ready to say the next thing. And it was just this idea of inhabiting that just as much as speaking. It was a great gift.
When you're approaching 60, you look happy, you look comfortable, you look...
Yeah, quiet. It's just a quieter
peace
life.
with yourself?
Yeah, I'm as peaceful as I can be as a 59-year-old comic. It's kind of like the old joke where don't rush down the hill, walk down. You know, you have a good time. Life's pretty amazing, especially after rehab and heart surgery. It's really amazing.
The powerful play goes on, and you may contribute a verse. What will your verse be?